Okay, hello there. Samata here on the Fuji 32. I'm just doing another video after I've cleaned up the sailboat and after I've gone on a 2-week trip to the San Juans. So I didn't do a lot of filming of that. Otherwise, I would have put a video up before this one of kind of that trip. But basically, I just was getting delayed on cleaning up, and I'd kind of already delayed my vacation a few days, and I just wanted to get out there. And when I was out there, I just wanted to be completely off grid and just fully analog to whatever extent was possible. And everything to like just the kerosene lamps at night and stuff like that, just making things really pleasant and off grid, feeling very connected with nature versus staying too tapped in and recording everything. And I'll do different trips like that. Coming up, there'll be videos of sailing and stuff like that, but there'll also be periods of time where I need just my solo time. But let's take you through the Fuji after she's been cleaned and just give you an idea of what's coming up in terms of maintenance, etc. So let's start forward because that seems to be a good place. In the V-berth, we've cleaned up, pulled off all the slats, and basically cleaned up the mold that was below. You notice the cushions kind of over here are exposed, and that's because I had to pull the cushions out to really give a thorough clean to the covers. And the zippers were basically corroded shut. So it's one of the downfalls of aluminum, or would have been whatever metal was in them, just them corroding. So I had to actually rip them open, clean them up, and stuff the cushions back in. It allowed the V-berth to be functional, but just not as cosmetically pleasing as I would like it to be at this point. So that'll happen. I'll replace those zippers when I find a decent sewing machine and all that. Upcoming is these slats here. I'm not sure if you, in the last video, if you remember, there was a shelf that actually came across here, and you can see the kind of point where it connected here, and there's another one forward on the bulkhead up here. Those were the only two attachment points for the kind of main, I don't know if you call it beam or cross member or whatever, but the whole thing was very flimsy and put in with finishing nails. And so I basically just actually pulled it out, physically pulled it out. Those things, if they're installed on a boat, need to be able to hold weight. So if we rock and roll very strongly, someone can grab onto them and their full weight can be carried on it. And since those weren't able to do that, bye-bye. They also allowed me to access as much. They allowed me to access these slats. You can see the line across at the finish line, or lack of finish line. So I needed to access to remove those slats, access all of them. So we're going to basically be priming and painting these slats. They are a nice kind of CVG. It looks like a fir CVG, which is kind of a nice wood. As much as I'd want to expose the grain and all that, I'm feeling like this area up here needs to be as easily maintainable as possible. So I'm going to be, just pulling it off, all of them off again, and just kind of cleaning them, priming them, and painting them with kind of like a probably medium gloss, something like that, something that can just be wiped down. And I don't know about the cracks, if I'm going to seal them or not with something. Probably won't, but do need to figure out a way to seal in the area behind with some insulation, because right now it's still it's almost an inch gap in there. So you lose a bit of room with that, but you also have this dead air space which can create mold, which did create mold. So along with that, we'll just get the cushions sorted out, cleaned up, all of that good stuff. Port lights need to be addressed. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but definitely leakage happening here. I'm trying to avoid going the route of like pulling all these out and getting just plexiglass covers and zipping them in from the outside. Good temporary fix, but aesthetically, it's not what I want in this boat. I'm actually leaning more towards the potential of getting some new bronze opening port lights, combination of opening and non-opening for some of these, if not all of them, because they would just be beautiful on the boat. So we'll see about that, because that's a big expense right there. They can be pretty expensive per port light. Up here you see there's still this kind of like popcorn style covering. It was basically glued on, and I'm going to need to remove all of it throughout the entire boat because there's just mold in these cracks. And as I mentioned with the slats down here, the ability to clean and wipe things down is super important for the practicality of the boat. So yeah, we got under there, cleaned out everything. Like I kind of said in the last video, all the mold, ton of stuff came out, which was awesome. Pulled up the floorboards, did a really deep clean underneath the floorboards. Under here, we're seeing, I'm not sure if I showed you guys before, this is where the fuel tank is. I'm not sure where we're going here. Maybe it's under this one where the fuel, there it is. So that's the diesel tank. And that I believe is a 40 or 50 gallon diesel tank installed there, which is actually a bit not contradictory, but is different than the basic design. If you go onto any of the specs of the Fuji 32, this being a cutter rig, by the way, not a ketch, they show very limited water and fuel capacity, but this has a 30 gallon tank here, another 15 to 20 gallon, this is water now, 30 gallon water here, 15 to 20 here, and then I think a 40 fuel down here. So a couple additional features that were added onto this one. So over here too, let's get into just the closet. Closet just needs to be redone with shelves and making this like an active storage area. So I'm actually going to line this whole thing with shelves, and the amount of storage and clothes that will be able to be in here will be fantastic. And then sails we'll put down underneath, and other things we'll put down underneath the V-berth. Right now they're stored in one of the lazarettes in the cockpit. Head has been cleaned, and I'm really liking this, the kind of teak slatted option here. And this actually, another beautiful option I think for me is the potential for a freshwater shower. I'm going to be pretty conservative with fresh water, but occasionally like a cold dip to lather up to, like just a quick freshwater rinse would be awesome, but also probably put that type of thing in the cockpit too. This would just be for kind of cold winter time where I can stay a little bit warm while doing that. The toilet itself is having some issues flushing. I've opened up a bunch of valves. Actually, I shouldn't say I opened up a bunch of valves. One of the valves that leads to the outside, what's it called, purging or whatever, that handle broke off, and that's going to basically lead me to sooner than later in the it's probably late fall, early winter, replacing all the through hull valves and the seacocks and the through hulls themselves. The toilet I think is actually a potentially good toilet. The boat actually came with a whole new pump system. I might just replace that entire system once I get all the plumbing figured out. Right now, I don't know what the boat actually needs to get the water that's inside the toilet into the tank, and I'm not totally sure I'm going to be keeping all of that, but I do want to get it functional, use it for a bit before I decide to remove it. Anyways, other than that, I pulled out the shower head, basically went up there, but I pulled it out because just all corroded hose and stuff like that. I'll probably be replacing the faucets and stuff too sooner than later. With manual pump faucets all the way around actually for this boat. So here's the heater. Never got that started, but it looks like it looks beautiful. So I'll get apparently it takes the green cylinders for it, which I'm not a fan of. I'd rather have it hooked up to the main cylinder, but there is a way to fill up the little cylinders with the main. It's just that the heater lasts about 4 hours with a cylinder. And probably what will be installed heating wise is also a forced air diesel heater. There is actually a day tank that's right behind this aftmost bulkhead, right behind the galley here. And so that day tank will function if I don't end up using it for an actual day tank for the motor, which I would like to do that potentially as well. It'll be used strictly for kind of marine forced air diesel heater. Galley's cleaned up a little bit here. Just made myself some breakfast, so some eggs and salmon, so there's a little bit left over there. And I bought this nice little wood table. It seemed to fit really well over the sink. And yeah, just cleaned up all the cupboards. Got some jars. Super stoked about the mason jars and actually how they fit in there. I'm moving to a no plastic boat, but no single-use plastic mentality. So these jars are all going to be able to be kind of pulled off and then refilled as needed. For longer passages, you know, this is all kind of short term right now because we're in the Puget Sound and there's access to co-ops and other bulk food options. For longer term cruising and stuff like that, I'll need to assess whether that's the way or not. Got the tea going, teapots, tea kettle, tea itself, and moving over here, chart table's cleaned up. And below here is the DC electric, and put in 2 100-watt sealed lead acid AGMs basically. And then actually something's changed between sealed lead acid and AGMs. I forget what it is, but it's a sealed lead acid, and then a sealed lead acid, pure lead acid, I should say, starting battery. That thing cost me almost $600, and I bought that one for the West Sail, but the West Sail doesn't have an engine that's running. This one does, so it came over here. Didn't think I showed you the engine compartment last time we met. It is stuffed right underneath the sink here, which makes pretty tight quarters to access. It's actually a small running, a little bit higher RPM engine, so I think it's one of the ones that runs about 3,200. So it comfortably runs at 20, 22, and sounds great at that RPM, so that's kind of nice. The other one was a very low RPM engine where you reach your maximum torque at about 22. So this one, 22 or 24. This one's different that way. It's been running good. Some issues with the starter motor engaging. I think that's an electrical connection because there was a lot of corrosion with it. And then the alternator has been slipping, so I need to adjust. I need to work with the adjustment bolt there, nut and bolt. I think I know exactly what's happening, but just after running for a bit, it starts to get loose again. So other than that, the engine ran really good, especially at high idle. Low idle, I feel there's probably some gunk happening with the pickup lines because I haven't flushed out the diesel tanks, or tank as it were. And that's going to be a project that I'm going to do before I take her sealing again. I hope anyways, is to really flush out clean and get some clean diesel in there, run it through all of that. So that's what's happening here. Let's see if there's anything else I'm leaving out. I'm not going through. Oh, little gathering that we made on the islands, and starting to get a little bit of kind of fun things on the boat, which obviously have to be stowed before we get going. But other than that, that's kind of the update. I'm not doing an external viewing right now. I'm at the dock, and I don't really want to walk around the docks doing kind of a selfie or videoing. Probably what I'll do is I'll just do a video later on of the outside of the boat, and then I'll be just doing an overdub voicing. That's high tech for me right now, so I'm just doing these little updates as we go. But overall, super pleased with the sailing capacity of the boat. Not capacity, but performance. I'm moving from a West Sail 32, which is about an 18,000 pound displacement, just as is. So we're really dealing with a lot lighter boat. This one's about 13,000. Similar ballast, actually. This is a 5,000 pound ballast. Shawl draft, so she is a little bit more tender. Then I actually like the feel of it. I like it when the wind kicks up to, it's showing me a really nice balance of reefing points. And for me, like when you get kind of around 15 plus knots, that seems to be like a good place where you want to reef down because the boat is on the rail. I also like sailing kind of on and off the rail a bit, so I like pushing the boat a little bit. But it's nice to know that, like, oh, the wind's piping up. It's like time to reef down, and it's like it feels really good. And the West Sail functioned fantastic in upper level winds, but this boat is showing me that in lighter winds, which we encounter a lot in sailing, she sails really well. Her pointing is fantastic. I was actually super surprised by the ability for this boat to point, especially with the shawl draft. Cutaway keel, it kind of made me think that would happen, but wasn't 100% sure. But we've narrowed our beam from 12, or I think 11.6, 12-ish to 9.8. So we basically come in a couple feet. And that means, like, in terms of sliding through the water with the same water length, you know, that's what's kind of crazy is this boat feels a lot smaller, but basically has the same water length as the West Sail. And the West Sail is a beast. I mean, she is a beast in the sense of like how big that boat feels when you sail. This one's in the middle there. It's like a little bit, you know, has the heavy displacement, which I like. and also like has a lot of stability to her too. So overall impressed, man. After 2 weeks of a lot of sailing, a lot of anchoring, you know, even sailing on and off anchor, you know, my first time out, she handled really well. And so I'm pleased with that. So anyways, that's the update. Next time we'll be giving you a little bit of, I got some videos that are going to come up kind of around just talking about points of sailing and lessons learned and stuff like that, you know, be kind of tea time type thing. And then some with actual sailing in it. So I'm going to try to get better at all of that stuff. And yeah, I think the one thing I want to mention is the likes and subscribes do help me stay motivated to make videos. Eventually there'll be a Patreon probably. I'm not really expecting to cash in on this at all. I don't really need to or want to right now. But I should say that the support just shows interest, which shows helps motivate. You know, it's like as a professional musician, the gig always goes as well as the audiences. You know, if you have an audience that is afraid to dance or they're like leave the first couple rows empty of the seats, it's kind of lame, you know. And YouTube's a different game, and at the same time, like the likes and subscribes and stuff like that do help motivate. So it's like, oh, should I get a drone? Well, I've only got 2 views and no subscribers and no likes, so not yet. That's basically where it goes. So anyways, just a little end thing there. If you do like the video, go ahead and give it a like. If you don't feel like it, it's your choice. You're sitting there or standing there doing your thing. Live your life, you know. But it does help, all those little things, the subscriptions and the likes just help things move forward. So I would like to grow this into more maintenance videos, which those will be coming up anyways, and then more sailing and other kind of things like that. So anyways, take care. Bye for now.